Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the channel. I'm Tony, and today we're going to be doing the review of Smile. I'm late to the party on this one. Smile was released in September, but as Gandalf always says, a wizard is never late, nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he needs to. Yeah, so with that faff out of the way, I wouldn't even consider myself a wizard, maybe a warlock or a arsonist. I don't know, whatever. Let's get into this. So here's the synopsis. After witnessing a bizarre, traumatic incident involving a patient, Dr. Rose Cotter starts experiencing frightening occurrences that she can't explain. Rose must confront her troubling past in order to survive and escape her horrifying new reality. So yeah, what you have here with Smile is a film that doesn't break the mold with its themes. If you've watched It Follows, or Fallen, or The Ring even. It's the same kind of concept. There's an entity at play here that hops from one person to the other, is drawn on grief, drawn to trauma. So I'll be breaking down, I won't go into a deep dive of this because I really do think you need to watch this film. It's one of my highest rated horror films of 2022. And I do think you should go and see this as soon as possible if you haven't already. So we're introduced to Dr. Rose Cotter, who's played by Sosie Bacon. Yes, the daughter of Kevin Bacon and Kyra Sedgwick. She's an overworked, burnt-out psychiatrist dealing with these mentally disturbed patients. We know that she's overworked because her introduction is that she's asleep at her desk. Her case files are all scattered around her, and the phone wakes her up with another patient. But no, actually, saying that previously, the actual intro to this film is a dead woman on a bed. There's a woman who's just lying there. She looks like she's got the kind of cataracts on her eyes. We pan down, see booze and pills, and then we sort of turn, and then we see a little girl in the doorway, which we later then discover is Rose. But no, she's an overworked psychiatrist, but you get the feeling that she cares a lot for these patients. She wants to help them. Her boss, who's played by Carl Penn, who's really great to see. You know, I loved him in House. He went down his politic roots kind of thing, but he's now back and he's playing a doctor again, which is great. He's her boss and tells her, like, look, you're burning the candle at both ends. You need to kind of just take a rest. You need some sleep. He says to her, she's been working 80 hours a week. She needs to get some rest. Before she leaves, however, she leaves her office, but she hears the phone ring. She comes back in and she picks up the phone, and wouldn't you know it, this is going to be the patient that forever changes her life. Caitlin Stacey plays Laura Weaver, a distressed young woman who claims to be pursued by a shape-shifting evil entity with the worst smile I've ever seen in my life. There's a very brief introduction to the two characters. There's a room where Dr. Cotter takes these patients and sort of sits them down. And there's a precursor to this with a guy who's just like, his mantra is, she's going to die, I'm going to die, they're going to die, we're all going to die, all going to die, going to die. You could probably make a remix version of that in itself. But she brings her in, and she's clearly off the bat agitated. She does not like seeing other people here, and she kills herself, but in a way that is just truly horrifying. She sees something behind Dr. Cotter, and she freaks out. She smashes a vase, and when the doctor goes to the telephone to kind of call it in, she turns around where she thought she was. She's not anymore. And she's standing there with this rictus grin on her face. Now, a lot of, obviously it's called Smile, the film is called Smile. There's a lot of people here that have really flesh-inducing, or just really grins that are mirthless. I think that's the best word to describe it. These are mirthless grins. And she, in this room, she cuts herself from the cheek down through her throat and bleeds out. So the doctor now is interviewed by two cops. One of these cops seems over familiar with her. We later learn that, yeah, they used to go out. But the cops are like just sitting there going, well, she's crazy, right? She's wow, wow. She's not, right in the head. And this is when Rose starts seeing entities or starts seeing visions or hallucinations. When she goes to her house that evening, she's just having a bottle of wine, and in the corner, in the darkness, in the shadows, she sees Laura just standing there once again with a rictus grin on her face, but she's all grayed out because she's dead, obviously. Her husband comes back, played by Jesse T. Usher. He's Trevor, the stereotypical husband who's just trying to see what's going on, but later on has his own, he's not a great guy, to be honest with you, in this film, but starts out in a very kind of supporting kind of way. She's going through his trauma. Every time she gets another entity coming to see her, she's more and more progressively going downhill. And he's not liking it, essentially. So yeah, she starts seeing these people, whether they're alive or dead, with these grins on their faces. And this is where the kind of similarity comes with The Ring. She starts putting the pieces together. She does her own detective work. She does use her ex, who is a cop, to find out what's happened with previous people that have previously encountered this thing. And yeah, the entity as such isn't given a name. I don't believe it's given a name anyway, but it's very mischievous. It kind of jumps from one to the other. So how this thing works, it will essentially jump into them or kill them in a kind of It Follows kind of way. If you've seen It Follows with the introduction where there's a woman running around, you don't see what she's seeing. And this is the same thing here. But then at the end, like, she's on the beach and her legs are broken and they're all ghastly and whatnot. It's the same thing here. So the person who's cursed, let's say the cursed people, they're the only ones who can see these people smiling. So everyone else around them just thinks they are utter dog shit crazy. And it kind of works to that effect, and the kind of, as I was explaining before, the metaphors of like depression and guilt and grief kind of all come into this. Rose, who's starting to see these entities, is getting really traumatized by this. Goes to her sister's house, and there's a birthday for her nephew, and she buys him a train set earlier on. But when the present is revealed, it's her dead cat, sort of thing. Yeah, there is the trope of this where she has a cat called Mustache. I love the name, by the way. And there's a part where she's tapping the thing. She can't find Mustache. Where's Mustache? It's not until we come to the birthday scene where the kid opens the present and there's just a dead cat. So obviously everyone around is like, why the hell would you give him a dead cat? What? She then proceeds to fall onto a glass table where she cuts she shreds her arms. And it's only going downhill from here. This is where she starts to learn, she's starting to put the pieces together, and she learns that there was someone that actually survived this demon or this entity or what you will. He's a guy in prison. So she goes to prison with her ex and asks him the question under the guise of being a psychiatrist that she has a patient that's dealing with the same trauma that he's been going through. And he reveals that there is a way to kind of sever the link. So basically this entity feeds off trauma, takes the form of someone you know. So it's not the kind of case of you're talking to someone like you'd be talking to your mum or dad and they just have this rictus grin on their face. No, what basically happens is they take a form of that person. So if you're, say, for example, speaking to your friend, you go to the pub and you see this person and they're sitting there and they're talking to you, but then you get a phone call and it's your friend who's sitting opposite you. That's what this entity is. It takes the form of people, whether you know them or whether they're dead, and it's just there. So yeah, Rose is seeing all these things, but she goes to see this prisoner and he tells her that what basically happens is that this entity needs a witness to pass on. So it kills people within usually 7 days. That's its MO. It'll kind of infect the person. You'll see other people, but it will make you essentially go crazy. So this is why this entity is quite mischievous, because it does a lot of things throughout the film that you'll see that just essentially makes you go crazy. It has a kind of H.P. Lovecraft cosmic horror element to it in the respect that it makes you go crazy, so crazy that you kill yourself. But they usually kill themselves, the people that are afflicted, and through Rose's research and detective work finds out that these people will always have someone left behind that sees the suicide take place. So this entity needs other people's grief. It feeds off grief. It feeds off trauma. And if you are cursed, i.e., if you're the person who sees someone else kill themselves, it then goes for you. Now, one of the things I really liked about this is in the respect of it follows Fallen. There's a certain, she's racing against time. Rose is racing against time because she finds out that not many people have lasted more than 7 days without going absolute batshit crazy and killing themselves. And she's already, she's in a conversation with her ex in the car. They're going to see this convict who has circumvented the entity. And she says, well, today's my 4th day. So she hasn't got long. It's a race against time for her to rid herself of this curse. And she mentions the curse quite a few times. And there's one specific moment where she goes to see her sister after the whole cat incident. She goes to her sister to try to explain what's happening. And this is where I thought where the metaphor for depression comes in, because most of the time people who suffer from depression don't openly talk about it. It's not something that you're just going to come up and, hey man, how's your day? Yeah, you know, I'm not good. I'm not good at all. It's not a conversation that usually happens. And she's talking about this curse in a kind of weird way of like, you know, the black dog, if you will, is over someone's, over their persona. It is a consuming thing, but no one else can see it. I actually thought, you know, there's been a lot of horror films that deal with these type of themes that haven't really dealt with them very well. This wasn't too much on the nose. The soundtrack is by Cristobal Tapia de Veer. When I actually was watching this, it's such a jarring soundtrack. And I love this musician. I loved him from Utopia. And no, I'm not talking about the American version. I'm talking about the UK version. If you haven't seen Utopia, you need to watch it, even the second series. I don't know why a third series was never made. David Kelly needs to... they just need to make a third series of this. Yeah, it's a very jarring soundtrack. A lot of ambient sort of noises. Makes you feel uncomfortable. And Parker Finn's approach to directing as well. There's a lot of Dutch angles. There's a lot of shots where we see the protagonist, Rose, driving along, and it's like a drone shot up above. It just makes you feel like there's something lurking, some ethereal presence around that's almost watching from a distance. And I really like that. The upside down shots, people who suffer from vertigo may not like that. Yeah, this really does have... I really enjoyed the premise of Smile. I'd recommend it to anyone who's interested in the genre. So thank you for listening. I hope I haven't rambled too much. Goodbye.